Okay, so tonight I want to talk about what I've been working on with the project here. Two things. One is the explosion and destruction, and the other is this how I made this building. Very interesting concept I learned on one of the tutorials. So let's start there. So to do that, I am going to go up here to L system object. Now, what's very interesting about it is there's something in Houdini called L system, and it's basically it's designed to have you make trees. But it basically can be used because it's focused, it uses like the turtle language, which was a language that was developed for kids to teach them programming. You can actually do some interesting things from it. So let me show you this here. Notice this is an L system. And all I'm doing is I have two rules. The premise is A, and then these are different. This describes directions. Like in Turtle Basic, they can turn in different directions, and I'm trying to remember exactly what this means. But basically, what it ends up doing is making this little thing here. Now from that, you go through, and I followed this. So now you have here, you have a little grid attached based on this. You come down and you do a poly extrude, which gives you essentially a building. The purpose here is to try to get the normals right. I'm not quite sure if it did, because I had to play around with the door. Let me go down here and explain this to you. So what this split lets you do is split things off. So you have a group 0, which is this. And if you go here, you have 1 point, and the rest of them go to do this range, and then you copy the windows. So this is a range, and it turned out, I don't even know if I needed it for what I was trying to do, but you have 5 of 5, so that means we're going to just put the windows essentially anywhere, and you can see the windows. Here's your door. And you're ending up merging your building with the windows and the door right here. And there is a building. And I think I moved it a little bit better, a little bit for the purposes of this. That's what the transform's about. So I guess the interesting thing is the fact that you can use a transform you can use the L system to make kind of the basis of a building that could be poly extruded. I tried, you can't really do the same thing with, let's say, a spline, but I was able to do it with this, following the tutorial, which I thought was very interesting, because now you have a fairly interesting shaped building here. It's not just a box or a circle, although I did something interesting with a circle too. I'm not using it right now in this, but this is Geo2. Let me turn that on. So this is a round building, and in that, what I did is I took a circle and I poly extruded it, and I didn't end up using this. This was a little experiment trying to see if I can like bend windows. but I did something I think looks pretty decent. So here's our circle. We extruded it. Let's see, here's the poly extrude. And then we transformed it. And you can see it's where it's supposed to be. And for each object, what I did is I did a bevel and an extrude. And so when I come out the other end, actually I can probably put a null here. There's hit the wrong spot. And let's call this, attach this to the end and call this something like round out. And if we look, we should have the full building. I think that looks kind of neat. So that's this building, which I'm not using right now for the simulation, but I could. Now these are going to give me the basis of buildings for my destruction, which is what I'm going to show you now. Right now I'm not destroying GO2. So let's turn that off. So what I did, let me go to, it looks like I have a camera. What does Cam 1 look like? No, don't like that. Let's get ourselves a decent camera here. And let's do, what is it? I think it's control and camera. Is that it? Yep. Okay. I am going to, see that little red thing is on, which means you can move it and bring this down a little bit. And so now we have Cam 2. And I'm hit escape. And then escape. And this is the simulation I have right now. You can see I'm using a ground explosion, which I have not modified. I'm still trying to learn more about how the pyro exactly works here. I'm going through the courses of CG Forge, and he has, I think, 3 levels. And I went through the first level, and then you actually fill out like a little test. And I guess at some point he looks at it and says whether he likes your answers or not. And if he likes them, you get like a certification, whatever that's going to mean. But I'm looking at that level 2 and level 3 there. And I want to look at, I think destruction only has two levels. Level 1 and level 3. I don't know what happened to level 2. But there are you know, a number of references for destruction, and why is this not? Oh, it's not playing. There we go. Let's see if it's going to. So, as you can see, what it's going to do is it's going to play through and make this explosion, and then the smoke's going to clear and the building will be destroyed. But here's the problem that I have to still solve. You'll see it. The first explosion, you see destruction, and the thought is, the idea is the way the timing is on this thing, you can get 2 explosions. Well, it seems like I should get some more destruction, and I've been playing with adding points, and I'll show you that, because I'm using a Boolean, the Boolean destruction, and as opposed to a Boolean fracture, as opposed to a Voronoi fracture. And what I was trying to do is add to the fracture items before I go into the second explosion, and then have it get destroyed again. And what? Okay, this is weird. I'm not seeing any destruction here. And that could be, I'm seeing plenty of, let's see what we got here. Oh, show all objects with that. Or is the dump net's on? Try this output. Well, let's see why this did not show me any destruction, even though I did not change anything. It could be, I bet you it's because what I have set up is output. Okay, let me fix that, I think. Let's see, Geo1, and we have, let's see, that. And now we're seeing some destruction. I was probably, see if I, you can see where it's been blown away here. And what I wanted to do is have a second explosion, which it will look like a second explosion, but you'll see there's no additional damage, and that has to do, I have to play around with that, and I'm sure I'll be able to find a reference. I want to destroy more of the building than just, so it destroys like the side and the front, but it does not destroy the back here. What did I do? All right. Let's stop this. And you can see where it actually did destruction. Let's continue. I'm not using the camera I set up, but you can see that the whole stuff is rigged only in the front part of the building. Now watch, what I tried to do is extend that, and I think I'm going to have to play with it a little bit more to get because I really don't get any additional destruction. Let's see what happens here. And you know, it is kind of quirky when you're dealing with Houdini about you have to click on the right things to see the things you want to see. And you see a second explosion. Theoretically, it should have destroyed the building, but it does not, which means that I'm going to have to play with it a bit more. I also have to add caching and, of course, rendering, which we looked at, which basically you have to set it up. So you're going to render this out as a VBD and then bring it in, because I want to bring this out. The explosion has to come out as VBDs. The destruction, I believe, there's no reason it can't come out as an alembic. And then go into cinema, and then you can do, you know, the what you'd like to do in terms of materials and so forth. And you can see the ground explosion. Like I said, this is a straight-on ground explosion. I haven't really adjusted it much. You know, you can adjust, there are so many different little parameters you can do with any of these explosions. I also picked the GPU explosion thinking I'd be able to take advantage of it, and then very odd that I'll have to look more into it because I have a GPU that should have been, I would have thought would have been compatible. And for some reason, it didn't seem to like that, so I changed it, I think, to sparse. So again, there are some more areas that need to be researched. The idea is, once I have the buildings, then, we already have the pot and the coins, whatever you want to call it, and I can kind of put it together and come up with some kind of backdrop. I'm thinking that I may want to like create some kind of cityscape. I can either do it that way or take, you know, a royalty-free photo, you know, a photo that you're allowed to use for such purposes as a backdrop. And there are other ways of getting explosions into a video. You can actually buy, you know, explosions and things of that nature, and then merge them in with your whatever it is else you're doing. But see, and eventually the smoke clears here. And what you're going to see is there really was an additional destruction. So that is something I want to fix. I want this thing to be hit with 2 explosions and to look like it was hit twice. Because you'll see as the smoke cleared, you can see very minimal damage in some of the other parts of the building. Looks like the front got pretty well blown, destroyed. But you can see the constraints are back all the way back here. So I'm not sure what's up with it. Well, I can tell you partly what's up with this. I did this originally with a box. And when I switched to the building, I probably need to adjust some things. Like, for example, moving the building or moving the constraints or redoing the constraints. So I did try to add more constraints and more of a fracture. And I'll show you something, since it's just about done running. I think it's like 10 more frames. And we'll be able to stop it. And you can see there really wasn't a second destruction, which is what I was hoping for. But let me show you something. If we tilt it up and maybe make it, there we go. Okay, let me go into here, and you can see what the constraint network looks like here and what it looks like on frame 65, because around, I think it's around frame 120, I changed it. And the same thing with the points. So let's look at the points. You can see a whole bunch of points here, and far fewer back here. So theoretically, when I reactivated the .NET, I would have thought it would have then reran using the additional points and so on, but that is something I still have to work on. I'm still trying to fully get a grasp around destruction, getting more of a grasp around pyro, because there's very few parameters that actually, well, there are a few main parameters, but if you look at a pyro mode, there is quite a bit. Let me see if I can, where's my my pyro. GPU explosion, which is really not a GPU explosion. But if you go in here and, well, I turned GO2 on. I want to go in here. You can see there's a pyro source, which is a pyro burster. A rasterization, which is what turns it into, you know, those little boxes, the voxels. Let's see if we can see them. I don't know if we're going to see them in this view. No, we're not. So, okay, and then the pyrosolver. And the pyrosolver has a whole bunch of different settings, from the collisions, let me see where it show you. Yeah, the sources. So density and temperature are the two key that you find. And let me see something. Doesn't look like it was. This is another thing with Houdini. You kind of have to. There's one. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's attributes. Here, you're going to get, well, you should get, that's interesting. Now down here, what am I going to see? Here's where you see everything. So you can see you have your density, your temperature, your flame, your velocity, and all those things play into what you actually see. They're all used, or can be used, to actually render your pyro. I don't know if it shows. So you have volumes, you have all your primitives and vertices and so on. But these are the key ones. We have these, see, 6 groups. Density, temperature, flame, velocity, X, Y, and Z. And that is the key stuff that you're going to end up using. And you can see this. Can we see this? Should be able to see this on the spreadsheet somewhere. But that's odd. Okay, well, at any rate, you can see what we had there, and there is a lot to get your head around with this stuff, but I think there's a lot. You can see it's pretty powerful, and if I have a couple of these buildings and have them do their pyro thing and destruction thing, it will make the point that I'm trying to make. So anyway, so I think that, to me, the most interesting thing is this new way of making buildings that I was introduced to, using the L system, and was able to get some destruction. There's a lot of work to do on this destruction. Obviously, what we want is these bigger pieces should kind of become smaller pieces, and there's usually secondary destruction in any of these simulations, and then apply to this building as well. So now we have 2 buildings, and get the destruction and get it into cinema, and see what we can do with it. So Anyway, hopefully this has been helpful, and hopefully I haven't rambled on too long, but I think this is pretty interesting stuff between doing this procedural modeling and doing this destruction and so on. That I guess was a lot to talk about. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I will speak to you next time. Take care.